And on tonight's Alabama adventure, getting close to Bigfoot, two deer hunters get a little closer to Bigfoot than what they had planned. As a matter of fact, they didn't even plan to even see a Bigfoot that afternoon. But after they got into the woods, they began to hear rustling sound, a tremendous howl or scream after they managed to get into a deer stand. Where this took place is in the Lake Guntersville, Alabama area. What's happened, I'm going to set you up a little bit for it so you'll know what's going on. A lady has taken her son on a deer hunting trip one afternoon. They're hunting with a crossbow. They don't have any other type weapon except a crossbow. And I'll let her explain about that in just a few minutes on the telephone interview that we did with her just a few days ago. What happened, a Bigfoot apparently held them in this deer stand. They became terrified. They were actually frightened for their life, and they did manage to get away and get back to their truck and get back to safety. But they did return, and they made some pictures of some footprints. Now, she was also kind enough to send us a copy of those pictures that she made of these Bigfoot tracks, of some broken and bent trees, some of the scenery around the area where this incident took place. So what we're going to do is roll those pictures, let you look at them while she's telling what happened to her and her son on this terrifying deer hunting trip one afternoon. I can't remember the exact month when North Alabama had a very heavy snowstorm up there one night, and as a matter of fact, we had to go to Huntsville that weekend, and we passed through all that snow. It was some very deep snow up there as we went through Lake Guntersville area. So what it is, I'm going to let this lady take over and tell you what happened that night. She also has a friend there with her that also told us encounter of a Bigfoot that he had a few years ago, and he believed it was the Alabama White Thang. And after listening to what he had to say, we also believe it was the Alabama White Thang, because where he had his encounter is prime Alabama White Thang area. It's within the triangle of where the Alabama White Thang is known to be. Now, if you'll remember, this is the hunting season of 2015. Anyway, what I'm going to do is get off here, and we'll go to the telephone interview, and I'll let her and her friend tell you of their Bigfoot encounters in the Lake Guntersville area. What we have is a lady from Guntersville, Alabama. She's not going to give the exact location of where an encounter with a Bigfoot happened with her and her son. She's going to just say the Guntersville area, because we don't want to give that location away to somebody. There could be a lot of people go in hunting it if the exact location were known. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to be quiet, and I'm just going to let her tell what happened. And if you would, tell us what happened with you and your son.
Well, I was 51, which this was last year, and I brought my 13-year-old with me, so I was trying to teach him how to deer hunt, and it was bow hunting season time, so we brought the crossbow with us. And when we got out there, the crossbow was a little hard to pull up, so it took both of us to pull the crossbow up. So I told him, I said, look, we only got one shot when we get out here, so we're going to have to be real quiet and get up in the tree stand and just sit and wait. And about dark, just a little bit before dark, they should start passing through. So we go out there, and I got the bow in my hand and the arrow, and we're sitting up there in the stand, and we didn't have a gun with us or nothing, even for personal protection, so that's all we had. So we're sitting up there, and we're being real quiet, and finally, as it was just starting to get a little dark, actually closer to time that we really should have been coming out of the woods, we're sitting up there real quiet, and all of a sudden I hear these two knocks. Well, I wasn't thinking. I thought maybe the deer were coming and one of them hit his antlers, you know. And so I tugged at my son, and I pointed in that direction where we had heard the two knocks. Well, about, I'm going to say not even a minute later, and that was straight ahead of us to the right. Well, not even a minute later, we heard two more knocks, but it was behind us to the left. Well, I thought, well, maybe some deer's coming in from that direction. And so we're sitting there real quiet, and I'm pointing forward for him to look that way, and I was looking back over my shoulder to my left. Next thing I know, we heard the loudest, the deepest roaring growl that it shook my chest. It scared me to death. And it was between me and the water, or my son and I in the water. And I'm going to say not even a distance of 2 telephone poles, like from one telephone pole to the other. It wasn't even that far. It was so close, and it was so loud and so deep. No man, no nothing could have made a sound that loud that I know of. And my son,
we call a guttural yell.
Yeah, it was. The only thing I can compare it to is after hearing it when I came home, I turned the television on to see if I could, when I'd seen this, because I couldn't compare it to anything. And then I got to thinking, knock up in front of me, knock behind me, and it was 2 knocks on wood. They reminded me of, what if that was like a Bigfoot? And so when I came home and I turned the television on and I looked at some recordings that we had, that Finding Bigfoot commercial where that black-faced Bigfoot picture that they have on there, how it growls, that is exactly what we heard. And my son, when we were sitting in that tree stand, he turned and looked at me and he says, I want to go home. And I looked at him and I said, son, so do I. I said, but I'm not getting down there with that thing. And it was dark. And he said, Mom, we got to get out of here before it gets too dark. We won't see our way out. I said, well, if we climb down there now, it's going to get us. I said, because I only got 1 shot. And I said, there was knocks in front of us, and then there was 2 knocks behind us. I said, that tells me there's 2 of whatever it was.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so we were scared to come down. I almost got on my phone and called 911. Actually, I should have called 1822 because I was needing to more than one person come out. But anyway, we climbed down. I went down first because I knew I only had 1 shot because it was too hard to pull the bow back up. Mm-hmm. And so I got down first, and I started looking around. I told him, I said, come on down. I said, we only got 1 chance to get out of these woods. And I said, we got to get out now. I said, but if you leave me, I said, I'm going to shoot you in the butt on the way out. I said, because you're not going to leave me in these woods by myself.
No, you are.
We got almost to where the truck was. As we were going, he was behind me, and I was in front because I was watching for anything that might be coming. And I told him, I said, you be watching behind us. I said, because I can always turn around and shoot. Mm-hmm. And I led us on the way out. And when we got close to the truck, my son passed me like he was passing Forrest Gump. I mean, he made it to the truck, and he was tearing the doors off trying to get in. But we made it out of the woods. And but I would, I told everybody, I said, I'll never go back there again, not by myself. And when I was telling some of my friends, they said, well, we'll go with you, and that way we'll, you got more protection. We'll bring some guns with us this time.
Yeah.
So while we're out there, we look around, and we're starting to look for a few signs of anything, And as we're going through, we heard, and there was 4 of us, okay? This time we heard 4 knocks. And then there was a little bit of time space in between, and then we heard 4 more knocks. And I got to thinking about it. The first time there was 2 of us, and there was 2 knocks, a pause, and then 2 more knocks. This time there was 4 of us, but there was 4 knocks, a pause, and then 4 more knocks. And I got to looking around, and when you're out there hunting, you're not thinking about signs of something, being out there in the woods.
No.
Well, while I was out there, I started noticing trees that were broke off about 6 foot, maybe 7 foot high up in the air.
Okay.
And pointing in different directions just in that area where we were at. Mm-hmm. And I took a bunch of pictures. And when I got to looking at the pictures, if you look at some of those pictures, if you look through where the tree is bent over and touching the ground, if you look straight through, one of them looks like there's a path up ahead of, as if you were going to pass under it and through it to go in the direction as if you were walking through an arbor. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where I would have thought the trees being bent over meant go in that direction or something. But if you look as if you were passing under it and going through, you see what looks like in one of these pictures, like ahead of it, there might be a hole, like as if go in this direction.
Yeah, like a trail.
Yeah, and so it's like you pass through them instead of going around them or in the direction where they're pushed down.
Okay.
And one of them actually is a fat tree. If you look at it, the pictures that I sent to you, and it's buried.
I got 2 of them that came through, and I think they're the ones that you sent yesterday that finally got here.
Okay,
So
you didn't get the other ones?
The other ones will probably come in shortly because I've only been in a space where I had internet service for just a short time. So
Okay.
I'm sure they'll come on in.
Well, there's a fatter tree that's bent over. It looks like it's actually the end of the tree is buried in the ground.
Yeah, I've got that picture of that tree. The big,
And then,
big tree.
well, see, my oldest son went out there because he laughed at me when I told him what we heard and that it scared us to death. Because he's the one who showed us to where to go hunting deer, where we'd most likely get one.
Yeah.
And he went back out there after we did, after it snowed, to see if he could see any tracks in the snow, what kind of animals are passing through there, not looking for anything in particular. And so I sent you these pictures of these huge footprints that are 3 feet apart and look like hair dragging behind it, behind each one of the prints. And the size of my son's footprint next to the size of these prints are about 3 feet or so apart. That's how wide they are, from one print to the other, from side to side. And you can see where the hair is dragging behind them. And if you'll notice, my son's footprints where he stepped is still frozen snow, but where whatever it was that passed through there, with its feet 3 feet apart, actually melted the snow.
Okay.
Mhm.
So when you're looking at those pictures, check that out.
Okay.
And I also hung my hat about my head's height from the ground. When from where my head was is where I reached and put my hat on the tree that was broken off. And then I also put another bright orange strap that I had and hung it over top of that where my head height would be, so that you can see.
I've
and
got that photo.
Well, I'm 5'6.5", and so if you look at from about where that's at, go up, so it's about 6.5 feet high, where some maybe 7 foot high where they're broken off.
It looks like they just pulled it over.
Yeah, there's a couple of them that are pulled over, and they're all in that area, and it's just I've never, and even then my son laughed. He says, even if it was something like a Bigfoot, because he don't believe in that, but he said, look at the very front of where you come in at the woods. He says, you'll see the perfect tree broken off about 6 feet up in the air. He says, just like you see on them TV shows. And he laughed, but he said, yeah, he said, that's there. And I said, well, you ought to see the rest of them out in the woods. Anyway, I also, a friend of mine that's with me now actually was telling me of an encounter that he actually had with a white, hairy creature that was standing upright, that was very tall, whitish gray, he said. In fact, he's here with me. And he, when he was telling me, I laughed at him. I said, no way, And so if you want, I'll let you talk to him on the phone and let him tell you what he saw, which is not far from where I was. But this one was white or whitish gray, and it was dark out at that night. So I'll let him tell you real quick.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, hold on.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, man.
Hey.
So you've had a good experience?
Yeah, I've had several around here because I grew up in the woods. I grew up around a little town called Union Grove. You know where that's at?
Yeah. Yeah. I have heard of it. Sure have.
Well, anyway, me and one of my cousins one night, this guy, he lived up there, and wasn't much to do in a small town. I'm 50 years old. I was about 15 when this happened, 14, 15. So we decided we would sneak into his pond, which, being back then, that's what country boys did, right?
Right, yeah.
We weren't supposed to, but we did.
That's what made it fun.
Well, it made it fun, and yeah, we weren't supposed to, but we weren't really doing anything to harm anybody.
Oh, yeah.
But he had a little dog, and the dog went everywhere we went. There was a bunch of us guys hung out. We all rode bicycles back then, man. We got around. But anyway, we decided we'd go fishing in this pond one night. So there's a little old hollow right there, and we were walking down the road, and the dog just stopped in front of us, and we stopped, because we thought, okay, has he seen a snake? And we were looking, we didn't see anything. And then we noticed the dog was looking up the hill. Well, there was an old lady that lived up on this hill, had a street light. Well, she had a chain-link fence around her property. Everybody around town can tell you if you find out her name. She carried a bulldog that one stayed in her house. It went everywhere with her, to the store, everywhere. But she had 2 in the yard. You could not tiptoe past that house without those dogs barking, right? Those dogs weren't making a squawk, and we looked up the hill, and there was something, and it was, I'm going to say, grayish. You know how a street light will throw the colors of things off?
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit. It was a grayish white color, maybe a little black tint to it, but it had a grayish white color. But there was no man in this town that I knew. I knew everybody. It's a small town, probably not even 1,000 people live there, 800 people max. Back then, probably 500 or 600. That's in the surrounding community, We knew everybody. This thing is probably, looks like it's about 3 feet wide by about 7, 8 feet tall. And we're watching it, and every time it takes a step, it looks like it drops about 6 inches, like it's going down. It was on top of, we was in a hollow, and it was, the road there is kind of goes into a hollow and up a hill and then down into another deep hollow with a long hill dragging up. And there's a pond we were going into on the right. So anyway, we watched this thing till it disappeared, and I said, what is it? He said, man, I don't know. He said, that ain't nobody, and nobody's got hair that long. It was just solid hair. It wasn't a T-shirt. It was just hair. It was just huge. Those bulldogs didn't even whimper. And so we eased up to the top of the hill to see if we could see what it was and take another look, and it was gone. So, being just boys, we just chalk it off. Because, we roamed around all through the woods being boys back then. So we climbed the little ditch bank under the fence. We go down, and it's kind of a half moonlit night. It's pretty bright. Anyway, we're fishing, and I tell my cousin, I said, man, there's a skunk out here. He said, yeah, I smell it. Well, this pond, you could see half of it was lit up by part of the street light. But on the shallow end of the pond, it was real dark. And we were sitting up there fishing, and I had all we carried with us was a little old tackle box, with extra fish and lead hooks and stuff. Nothing major.
Yeah.
Just something you could carry in your pocket. Anyway, about the time we get casted out, I said, man, I hope that skunk don't come up. This pond was well kept, mowed around and stuff. Anyway, I kept smelling that, and he said, yeah, I smell it. Well, he gets down there right in the edge of the shadows. I'm still sitting right there in the edge of the kind of light where you can see better. But it's real dark back there because the trees were shadow in the pond. All of a sudden, we heard something go, and it sounded like it tore down a sapling. I left my little tackle box there.
Yeah.
And my cousin's hollering, wait on me. And I said, here. I was sliding under the barbed wire fence down to like a 3-foot ditch, red clay ditch bank. I can show you where it's at today. And as soon as my feet hit that black top, I heard him sliding out from under the fence. Well, when I got back to his house, which was right up the road, the old house ain't there anymore, but I can show you exactly where it's at in the whole 9 yards. But he's like, man, what was that? When we got back, I didn't have any line on my rod and reel. I had let it all out. We got in the car the next day with a buddy, went down the road. You could see the fishing line. I strung it out all the way down the side of the road. And, it scared the crap out of me, man. And I used to know an old guy. He's passed away. He swears up and down. He's seen it at the Guntersville Dam. The same thing.
Well, did it make the hair on the back of your neck stand up when it yelled?
Oh, yes. The hair stood up the back of my neck, and I just thought it was a skunk, but when it went, there, something in there, it sounded like it was tearing down a small sapling to spank my britches with, I left town. And I'm not talking about, I didn't wait around. I left my little tackle box. I had my rod and reel in my hand. I just tore out running.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know what it was. I'm going to say I was 15 years old. I was probably 15 when this happened. And I've talked to several people, and a lot of people's laughed at me, and a lot of people saying, hey, man, I've seen the same thing, but I ain't going to tell nobody, you know, because people make fun of
a lot of people won't get the word out, but you'll be surprised at how many people have seen it. And it sounds like you saw what we have reports of, the Alabama White Thang.
Yeah.
This thing is grayish white in color. I'm going to say gray because it in the street light, it kind of looked like it might have had a gray hue to it or white. You know, I mean, it was humongous.
Well, you know, it's one of our theories that they do gray just like we do. When we get older, we gray. So why wouldn't they?
Well, you got to think of where I grew up at, too. I mean, I grew up on a mountaintop right above the Tennessee River. I could walk there when I was a boy in a few hours.
Yeah.
And those are some humongous woods from the Guntersville down all the way from basically Warrenton all the way around to Decatur. You can walk almost untouched, unscathed, and it's just woods.
So
I mean, there's nothing there.
A lot of land.
Well, I hope it is that way because the loggers are just cutting so much down here. I think that's causing a problem with the Bigfoot, too.
Well, a lot of this is TVA property.
Oh, okay.
And it borders TVA, so you have to have a permit or beetles get into the wood to be allowed to cut it. And there is a lot of big woods down here around this river system. And, I mean...
Well, it sounds like a good place to explore for Bigfoot.
It's a good place to explore for a lot of things.
Yeah.
You know. But, I mean, a good friend of mine seen a black panther, and they said they weren't up in here, but we seen one riding their bicycles, and I know a guy and there was a picture of it at once. If the picture's still there, it shows a black panther reaching out to touch a fawn deer. And it's in Baylison in a little grocery store in a restaurant where the locals go to have a biscuit. And they all laughed at this guy, and he brought it in on a deer cam, you know, God, what am I trying to say? You put it out in the woods, you know, and it takes your field pictures and everything like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And he actually brought a picture, and they said, why didn't you shoot it? He said, man, I was up a tree and I only had one bow. Those things can climb trees. He said, he looked straight at me. I looked straight at him. I said, what did you do? He said, I froze. He said, it went away. They say they're not here, but there's a lot of things in these woods around here. But what I seen, I mean, I talked to my cousin not even a year ago about that. He said, well, I can't say exactly what we seen, but we seen it. You know, we did. And he told another person, he said, we seen what we seen that night, whatever it was. And another real good friend of mine said she seen it looking in her basement window when she was doing laundry one night. Now, she's a way older lady. She's not probably going to say, no, I don't want anybody laughing at me. But she swore them down before I ever seen it. They was looking in a window at her. So I don't know, you know. But, yeah, but here is personal fact, okay?
Appreciate the story.
Yeah, sure do.
But there's something up here, I'm telling you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, now.
Well, whatever's out there in them woods, it's huge, it's loud. It actually made my chest vibrate when it screamed or it, you know, yelled that loud. And it was like a real deep, the deepest, loudest growl. And I've listened to bears on, you know, on television, on the computer, you know, and things like that to try to compare. And that's not what it was. I don't care what anybody says. I mean, even if there are bears out there that are 3 feet wide and huge, they don't even sound the same. And this was it was like, you know, and it was just so deep that it actually shook me inside, you know. And my son he just looked at me with panic in his eyes, and I knew that I was going to have to make sure that my son and I survived, you know, that I was out there to protect my son now. It wasn't a hunting trip anymore. And you don't find too many women that'll, you know, take a child out to start with out in the woods by yourself. You usually got a man with you, you know.
That's true.
But But I'm, that's just me. I love to hunt. I love to fish. I love to swim and, and boat and everything else.
Yeah.
And to take my boys somewhere, to me, is, something special. That's something I get to do with my kids,
Oh, yeah.
But I'll tell you what, it's got me so scared now, I bet you I'll bring somebody with me, and some guns too, because I'll never, ever go back out in the woods without some kind of self-protection again.
Well, that's a good idea.
I don't blame you. I sure don't blame you at all.
And this is 2015. Obviously, whatever's out there in them woods has been multiplying, and there's enough of them now that they're starting to get a little closer inland. And, with the population spreading out, you're going to see things that you don't normally see. There's a lot of things science hasn't discovered yet.
Right.
He said whatever he saw had arms. It wasn't no bear, and it was walking straight up.
The footprints themselves, if it had been a bear, there would have been a bear claw. I mean, you would send the claw print in.
Well, that's what I was looking at, these pictures, too. I went to Walmart tonight and blew some of them up to see if I could see a little bit better. And that I didn't know that bears had hair that long. Maybe they do. I don't know. But, whatever this is has long hair, and it was long enough to drag behind the footprints in the snow, if you'll look at it. And if you'll look at the size of those prints compared to my son's shoe, and his shoe is about a 10 to 11, and so you're looking at about a foot-long footprint of his. Yeah. And look at those prints and compare them to the prints of whatever this is and how wide they are apart.
A bear would not have that big of a footprint.
Well, not only that, whatever it was hot enough or warm enough to melt the snow to the ground. Where my son's boot prints, you can still see all he did was pack a little bit of snow down. Whatever this was melted the snow under its feet. It was hot, or warm. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it had a deep voice, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. It was the most horrifying thing I'd ever experienced in my life. Would have never, when he told me about his story of his encounter at a pond, I laughed. I thought it was the funniest story, and and that he just, could tell a tall tale, But when that happened to us, I believe him.
It changed my mind, didn't it?
Yeah.
It wasn't a tall tale like anymore.
Well, it'll blow your mind.
Yeah. Whenever this thing had y'all kind of cornered in the deer stand, about how long were you up there?
We were up in the stand for, I'm going to say, a good 2 hours or so, before it happened, because we were sitting up there. We knew that we were going to probably have to wait until it started to get dark, and we wanted to make sure if we had any kind of scent at all that it would pass, Yeah. And so... Well, it may have been a little longer than that because we came out there early enough that I wanted to make sure we had a good seat and we were waiting because we knew that, about the time that they were going to pass through because my son had hunted out there so much.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so we just sat there patiently, and, that's what you teach your kids when they're learning to hunt. You got to be patient, You got to be quiet, and you got to just sit and wait. And then you'll, in the end, you'll reap your reward. And I knew that just before dark, that's when they're supposed to pass through, and I was determined. I did not want to leave there without a deer, so we were just waiting, and then we heard those knocks, and like I said, I was thinking deer antlers, maybe some deer was beating his head on the tree or something, and then I got to thinking that didn't really sound like that, but then I heard it again behind me, 2 knocks, and I thought that's knocks, that's not deer, but. I don't know, and then until I got home that I got to thinking of, whatever was scared the daylights out of us, but it was when I got home I got thinking, that could have been a Bigfoot,
Right. Mm-hmm.
So.
That's what it sounds like. It sure does.
Yeah.
And it's very possible, like you said, that there was more than one.
Yeah,
saw you
because.
Twice.
Right. There was too much distance between ahead of us to the right and behind us to the left, where we heard the knocks. And they were close, but they weren't, nothing could have circled us that quick between the knocks.
Right.
Yeah, if you go through the brush down there, you get the heebie-jeebies as you walk through there.
Yeah.
Well, how long did you feel trapped up there after you heard it yell like that?
There was no way that I would have. I was determined I was going to stay up in that deer stand at least another 20 minutes in hopes that whatever it was might just not feel threatened by us and just leave, so that we could have an opportunity to leave. And I felt like if I would have gotten down with my son right then, whatever it was might have attacked us. And if there was two of them, and this was going through my mind, 2 knocks to the right, 2 knocks to the left, 2 of whatever it is, hearing the screaming, deep growl coming out of the woods right there, not that far, from us, within yards, that there had to have been 2 of them because of the 2 knocks here and the 2 knocks there. That's what I was thinking. And I thought, well, maybe they'll leave. And we just sat there and we looked, and finally I just told Ari, I said, look, I said, it is getting too dark. There is no way we're going to see how to get out of here. We're going to have to be brave. We're going to have to get down, and we're just going to have to be careful, and we're going to have to make, go for it.
Yeah. Well, it would have been that much worse if you had waited till it had got completely dark. Then it would have been right on top of you.
Yeah. Well, by the time we got to the edge of because it was a pretty good walk to the truck, we had to walk a good ways to get to the deer stand.
Yeah.
And so we had a long way to go, and I knew we did, but I had it well marked, where I could make sure that I could see even in the dark.
Yeah.
Our markings on. I hang these tags on the trees.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
He said he wanted to know how many sightings you had of that Alabama White Thang that they said that people have seen.
Several. We have had a lot of sightings from up that way. Sure have. There's like a triangle of counties. I was trying to remember them. It's like from.
Winston County, is Winston one of them?
No, I think Winston's on the other side of Birmingham. Okay. I think it's like from Calhoun County up toward Madison and then back down to Birmingham. There's a triangle right in there that we get a lot of sightings of the Alabama White Thang.
Well, you need to start looking in Guntersville now.
Okay.
We'll do that.
He's like he's kind of moving east.
Yeah, because he's down here, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
We have a couple of investigators that we're going to try and get scheduled to come up that way and visit with you. You think you would be brave enough to take them in the woods and show them around?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'll take them through the whole area that we were in, and I'll show them all the trees, that I got the pictures of. As long as I got someone with me, I feel secure because I got a gun and I know how to shoot. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And I don't have a problem with shooting something that's coming at me.
Oh, no. Not if it's attacking you.
No, I don't care what it is. If it's going to attack me, it's going to get shot. Yeah, I would definitely go out there with someone, and I would show them exactly where everything's at and exactly where we heard it and everything. I got no problem with it.
Okay.
I won't go alone, but I'll go with somebody.
Yeah, okay. Well, we sure do. Thank you for telling us that, and appreciate you giving me a report here a while back to where we could get in contact with you. And then whenever I got your other email that said you had pictures of the Bigfoot tracks, then heck, I wanted to talk to you to find out for sure where it was and all, everything that we could find out on it.
Okay.
And I'm going to try and get these pictures if they'll come on in. If I don't get them by tomorrow, I'll give you a call back. Maybe you can just put them on a disc and send it to me.
Okay. Well, I went tonight and I actually had pictures. I took the pictures and printed them off.
Yeah.
And then I could also put them on a DVD or CD, whatever they put it on.
Well, if you had them printed off, do you have a scanner on your computer?
No, I just have the next book, and stuff like that. I'm kind of computer illiterate, but I can. Yeah. Sorry, but if I can get a friend, if I can get a friend to take this little SD card out of my telephone and off of my camera, I'll give it to them and ask them if they'll put it in their computer and send it to your email address.
Okay, that would be good.
Yeah.
But like I say, it was so slow. You sent some yesterday, and I didn't get those two until today. I guess it was about 3:00 that they came.
My telephone, when I was at Walmart this evening trying to send you through the text messages to that telephone number you gave me, it showed that it went through to that phone number, all of the pictures, every one of them.
Okay. Well, see, the two that came through today came through on my old phone, so it was the ones you tried to send first that didn't come through.
Oh.
On the first number that you gave me?
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that they will be coming shortly on this phone.
Yeah, they should then, because I sent you all of them tonight, and it said every one of them sent.
Okay.
But if you don't have let's see, I've got 5 of the snow, and I think I've got about 8 of the trees.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And so
I've got the one where you have your hat hanging.
Yeah.
And then I've got the one where the big tree that's been over.
Okay, one of those was sent today, and one of them was sent yesterday, so I may have to resend all of them to you.
Okay.
Unless you have 8 of the trees and of the snow,
These are
you don't have all of them.
only 2 that I have.
Okay. Well, I'll ask a friend of mine. I'll go to someone that I know has a computer with that can actually send stuff through email and knows how to do it.
Okay.
I'll try to do that tomorrow and make sure you have all the pictures.
All right.
Because we'd like to put the pictures on when we put this recording on, to where people can see what we're talking about.
Okay. And if you'll notice, those trees that are broke off about 6 feet up high or 7 feet high, if instead of looking at the direction that they're pointing at, stand in front of the break as if you're looking through the triangle. You know what I'm saying?
There's a path.
And look through and see, and then do that to each one of them that you see. And it's almost as if it's saying, go through the door.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the arbor, go through it.
The portal.
So,
that's what we'll call it, is the portal.
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, a portal or whatever.
Okay.
That's a thought, because when I look at some of these pictures and I see that, I can look ahead. I wouldn't have thought of it in the woods. I was just taking pictures of the trees like that.
Yeah.
But if you look in the picture and you see ahead, you kind of like, it's almost as if you can see a path.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And into the woods, it almost looks like a tunnel type look,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
one of them ahead. And the rest of it just looks like it's really clear through there, like as if you're supposed to go through that direction.
Okay.
We'll look forward to seeing those.
Look at that. Yeah.
Yeah. And but anyway, I'll find somebody even if I have to go to the library tomorrow. In fact, that's what I'll do. I'll go to the library tomorrow and I'll ask the lady at the library to help me send these to that address, that email address that you gave me.
Idea, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's what I'll do. I'll do that in the morning.
Okay.
All right.
And I'll make sure you have them.
Okay. We'll keep in touch, and you keep in touch with us, and if you see something else, try to get some pictures of that. And, of course, I hope you don't run up on another encounter like you had. But
yeah, that was that was crazy scary. Oh, yeah. It really was.
Sure was.
I was never so scared in all my life, and I've been through some scary situations. You know what I'm saying?
Well, okay, then I guess that we will let you go tonight then, and sure do thank you for taking time to talk to us.
All right. Well, I appreciate you talking to me.
Okay.
And when you're ready to send an investigator out, let me know, and
we'll do that.
Sure will. We'll
I'll take the time to go with them.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, thank you a lot.
It was nice talking to you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, okay. There was her story of her encounter with a Bigfoot, which turned out not to be a very good encounter at all. And I would like to say that Alabama Bigfoot Society is a completely no-kill group. We don't believe in going out to kill one just to prove that these creatures do exist. But in this situation, as with a lot of things, you have the right to protect your life and your family member's life should you be attacked by one of these creatures. And because what I have thought about since we have listened to the interview and we've talked to her, and I have thought about it before, what if you were in the woods and one of these creatures did attack you? They are 50% human. They have emotions and feelings, I believe, just like we humans, and sometimes they get enraged over things, and sometimes humans do too, and they do things that they wouldn't normally do. And this could have been what happened to this Bigfoot. He just got mad. But if one should attack you and try to kill you, then you wouldn't have any choice but to protect yourself however you felt that you should. And I'm not telling anybody to go out and kill one. I'm not telling you not to kill one. I'm just saying you have the right to protect yourself, you and your family, and your property from anything, I believe. And should one attack you, then you do what you feel that you should do. What I believe happened up there that afternoon was they were in deer country hoping to see a deer and to kill one themselves. And I believe they interfered with the Bigfoot's deer hunting. Maybe he had run completely out of food or whatever, and he had to have a deer that afternoon. And I believe that's what had the Bigfoot mad, that they kind of came upon his hunting ground, or his kill zone as it's been called. I have talked to somebody a while back that said that they communicated psychically with a Bigfoot, and I believe that's very possible. I believe I have communicated psychically with them sometimes. And their hunting ground is called, this person was told, their hunting ground is called a kill zone. And that could have been what this lady and her son walked into, was the Bigfoot's kill zone or his hunting ground, and they were kind of at odds to get a deer that afternoon. Either way, I hope you enjoyed tonight's Alabama adventure, getting close to Bigfoot. And as I said earlier, they got a little closer to Bigfoot than what they had planned, and it wasn't a very good experience for them. And I would like to thank them both, the lady who did the interview about the hunting trip and her friend, for taking time tonight to talk to us on the phone and to give us this interview. So I would like to thank you once again for tuning in and watching. If you like this video and you like what we're doing down here at Alabama Bigfoot Society, I'd ask you to subscribe to the channel. I'd also, as I always do, like to say hello to my granddaughter Madison. I would also like to tell you that the Alabama Bigfoot Society is run 100% out of pocket, and if you can see your way of making a donation of any kind, it would be greatly appreciated. And with all that being said, we'll be looking for you next time on the next Alabama adventure, getting close to Bigfoot.